This post is 2 years old, but I don't care. I am really enjoying, and many of you are too, enjoying these stories from these men who have to face the consequences of their own action, who do terrible things in a relationship and the relationship ends because they deserve it. He says, "Don't be like me." This was posted in the marriage subreddit. His edit says, "I did not expect any sympathy, but I still got some very nice supportive messages. Thank you for that. I deserved every angry comment and don't blame anyone for doing so." He says, "My wife and I were together for 9 years, married 6 when I started my affair. We have 2 kids. I didn't realize just how good I had it. She was a supportive, loving, kind woman who put me and the kids before herself every time, and I didn't appreciate that. I felt like she didn't praise me enough for the things I did for the family, which I now realize was pretty bare bones compared to what she did for us. I felt like we didn't have smecks enough and like my efforts to look good for her weren't appreciated or reciprocated. I resented how much time she spent with the kids versus with me. I thought she didn't put enough effort to be interested in my hobbies because she has kids to take care of. My affair partner was 10 years younger than me. When the affair started, I was 31 and she was 21. I liked the attention from a younger woman who wasn't always tired from keeping up with the kids and who stroked my inflated ego. I was a selfish bastard. I drank too much. I told my wife I was working late or hanging out with friends when I was really with my affair partner. My wife trusted me completely, and the affair had carried on for almost 2 years by the time I initiated the separation. She wasn't blindsided. She'd been asking me to be more present and to put more work into our marriage and into parenting. I refused every time, citing the fact that I was the primary earner and that was enough. But she wasn't upset and asked if there was someone else. I said no, but her suspicions were finally coming up, and she checked my Apple Watch and found everything she needed to know. Even though I moved out, I hadn't filed, but my wife did. She confronted my affair partner and told her that she hoped she would be a good stepmother to our kids, despite her lack of morals. At the time, I thought my wife was out of line and being spiteful. Now, let me just go back to this. She checked my Apple Watch. I do not have an Apple Watch. I don't use iPhone or anything. So can someone please chime in on how you can check an Apple Watch and what you would find on an Apple Watch to confirm cheating? Please tell the class this so that we can put that information out into the atmosphere. All right, he says, "Now I'm alone." The affair partner took those words to heart and realized she didn't want to be a stepmother in any capacity. She broke up with me after a few months, saying she wasn't in love with me and never had been. She just liked the attention. I can't say I had any different reasoning for being in an affair, so I couldn't even be mad. My wife has full custody, and I see the kids every other weekend. She went back to work and put both kids in daycare, which I pay for. It's expensive. They still have the house, and I've got a roommate. All my wife wanted was for me to put in effort and to recognize hers. I only focused on myself. I didn't date her. I was selfish in bed when we did have sex and didn't listen to her when she asked for more effort in that regard. My 7-year-old asked me recently if I was going to get a girlfriend because mom has a boyfriend. I didn't know my ex was dating, but I hope it's with someone who gives her everything I didn't. If you're in an affair, block and delete them. If they're at your job, quit and find a new one. If they're at a coffee shop you go to, find a different one. If they're just a fantasy, stop it and start fantasizing about your future with your spouse. If you're thinking of starting an affair, do the same and refocus that energy into your spouse. I've never been more lonely in my life and never been filled with more regret. I wish I had a time machine. I know she does, but not for the reasons I. Men have too much time and energy to have an affair because they're not doing the work within the home. They're not parenting how they should be. They're not helping to maintain. I'm sorry, not helping. We're not doing helping. They're not participating in the chores despite being one of the adults in the house. They're not doing things like he said. He's not dating his wife. That's the reason why he has too much energy. And that's the reason why many women often look raggedy. They often aren't getting enough sleep. they're drained. They start looking terrible because they're giving, like this man said his wife was giving, and not getting recharged, not getting enough sleep, not having anybody to take some of that stress off of their shoulders. So their looks go down, their health goes down, their hair starts thinning prematurely, and they are drained. But the men are not drained. They have too much energy. That's the reason why when these men do leave and go be with those affair partners, and then the affair partner ends up doing what the wife was doing, they break up because he no longer has that wife to drain. Now he's draining the affair partner. All right, so this person that deleted their account says, I don't know if people are giving this enough credit for its potential deterrence value, honestly. He doesn't claim he's a victim. He doesn't justify anything he did. He provided reasons which seem to be common for affairs to begin, and his relatability on that front might cause someone thinking about an affair to stop and pay attention, I would think. I don't know. I think it's a valuable post. It's a cautionary tale. Keep your peen in your pants. Keep your peen in the home that it belongs in. Don't go to other people's places and put your peen where it doesn't belong. Then maybe you won't lose your home, your wife, the access to your children, even though you're not participating with raising them. Maybe just use some of that energy that you would with that affair partner and use it with your spouse, your family. Maybe do that. Because my suggestion is women look at these cautionary tales and leave quicker. Leave these people quicker. They don't deserve a spouse and what comes along with having a family under one roof. They don't deserve it. Look at how many people are wasting away or taking their wives for granted. Mae West says, I think so too. A cautionary tale. The deleted account says, it really honestly is breaking my heart. The whole post shows someone who knows what he's done and the damage it's caused and is trying to share his story to help others. And some of these comments are incredibly cruel. There's no reason for that. I have no sympathy for cheaters that blew up their own relationship and have to live in the consequences of their action. I just don't. Comfortable Spite says, I totally agree. That's why a lot of people don't publicly admit they know that they've wronged. They're going to be slammed for it even more. Yes, I think he knows exactly what he did and is deeply regretful, and I have sympathy for that for him. I'm sad for him. I'm not. I'm just going to use this as a story that we can share and enjoy because we love Find Out season over at BurbNBougie. All right, y'all. Weigh in. Let me know what you think. Join in on the immense happiness emotions that I'm feeling as somebody is regretful for their own actions and have to live in their consequences. All right, y'all. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. This type of post is precisely why I don't think that women should get married in their early 20s because we grow so much right after college and right after getting our first jobs and learning ourselves. Who we would choose in our 20s would be completely different than who we would choose in our 30s. So she says simply, I've outgrown my husband. She says, Hi, I've been with my husband for 10 years, 8 years married. Of course, there were ups and downs, but we've been mostly happy. But the last few years, I feel like I've outgrown him. I work out, look after my health, almost finished a PhD, learning a new language, doing well with my job. My husband still drinks a lot, drinks most days of the week, and sometimes more than 6 or 7 glasses or beers a day. Oh my goodness. And smokes like he's in his early 20s. He also let himself get bigger. He comes across he comes across as someone that doesn't really want to improve or better himself. I'm the one who constantly brings opportunities, new hobbies, new people into our lives, making financial investment decisions, etc. And now I'm getting tired of it. I'm not asking for a leadership here, or maybe a leader here, but I want someone who can at least be my partner, not someone I have to drag to walk beside me. People sometimes joke about how he got someone like me, or people think he has a lot of money to get someone like me. Honest truth is, if we met now, we probably wouldn't date because we are no longer in the same league. I've done everything to encourage him to be healthier, from being super nice to begging to blackmailing him, but nothing works. I take him to running clubs together and try to buy healthier food for home, etc. I'm now at the point I don't find him attractive and find myself fantasizing about being with someone else. Should I just let him go? I told him that this is how I feel, and he says he wants to be with me, says his biggest fear is losing me, but he's not changing his behavior. You might think he sounds depressed, but I don't think he's depressed, but just habitually unhealthy, to be honest. To me, it seems that he's just missing that desire to get better and just be happy to chill and make stupid jokes. If I suggest to him to lose weight a bit, he would breathe in really hard and say, nah, I'm fit, and just deny that he's overweight. It's hard to help someone who doesn't help himself. This sounds terrible. So she's actively working to be a good human, a better human, to keep learning and expanding her horizons. And he's just not. A lot of the times, if you listen to men, they don't have very many hobbies. They don't have many friends outside of their wife. They really don't like, they're not really that interesting. They don't want to try new things. And it's hard to be someone who just wants to experience things, and you got somebody who doesn't want to experience anything. And then this is one of the reasons, just this alone right here, how she's talking about how much he drinks and he smokes and he's just becoming unhealthy. Having a wife that actually cares is one of the reasons why these men are living as long as they do, because on his own, he would probably be even worse. She probably tries to throw a vegetable or two in his meals. She probably is the one that would push him to go to the doctor before he would even think about it. So this is one of the things that keeps these people alive. And she's already getting tired of it. I do not think that this is going to last. Okay, some of the comments. Upstairs, Aid says, you need to use influence. Don't ask him, influence him. Yes, it's not an ideal situation to be in, but there are things you can do. Imagine divorce was not an option. People too easily fall back on that. You married him for better or worse, sickness and health. People grow apart all the time. Hell, that's what marriage is about. You need to show your influence to help lead your husband. Certain parts of life, he needs you as you need him in other times. It does not sound like she needs him at all. He sounds like he is bringing her down. All right. It's not always the man's job by default to be the leader. Maybe there's something else going on. He needs to at least have the idea of leading himself, treating his own body right. He can't even do that. What is he doing? He's bringing her down. He's dragging. All right. He kind of sounds like an alcoholic. 6 to 7 beers every night is a lot, and I'm a former alcoholic. But even that doesn't mean you should just divorce him. Take baby steps. You want him to lose weight. Don't take him to a damn running gym. Start going on walks with him, baby steps, then maybe a jog later on. Don't just ask him to quit drinking. Maybe have a beer with him and just stop after one or two. A lot of options here besides we've grown apart, let's divorce. Then the OP says, that's usually how I think, that divorce is not an option. I'm taking all those small steps with him. The problem here is that I'm also prone to drinking a lot, and I have been seeing counselors and tried different interventions to drink less, which I am now. But it's so hard when you have someone in the house that drinks a lot, and it's easy for me to fall back to my old habits. I kept waiting for him instead of pushing him because I thought the desire to change needs to come from within, not forced by someone else, but I don't see that day coming anytime soon. I have been asking him to quit smoking from day one of dating and said I won't marry him if he smokes. I thought he quit for years, but last month he confessed that he had never quit and was smoking the last 10 years behind my back. There's so much to unpack in here, but divorcing somebody who is a drinker and you're trying not to fall back into your old habits is a really that's a very good reason to divorce somebody. When somebody is going to trigger your vices or trigger some of your issues, that is an absolute good reason to divorce. And he's been lying to her for 10 years. No, that is absolutely atrocious. Being a liar is a pretty good reason to get divorced. Spare Conflict says, the lying to you for 10 years about quitting smoking when he hadn't is such a red flag. He must have gone to great lengths to hide that from you. Just based on that alone, I think you should separate, as you can't trust someone who is willing to lie to your face consistently for a decade. And then she says, I know, but then I thought, no one is perfect. And if I move on, the next person will have a different problem. So I forgave him. Now he just smokes in front of me saying he will quit. Now he's being bold with it. Wow. And he's doing so because he knows that she's not going to do anything. He might as well. There's no consequences. He's like, cool, I got this lie off. She's not going to leave me. Ed Lowe says, is he smoking in the house? That alone would be grounds for me to leave. The smoking is a pretty big thing to lie about for so long. That could be a deal breaker for many people. And I've seen personally how awful it is to watch someone die from lung cancer or slowly watch them struggle with COPD tethered to an oxygen tank. I have multiple family members in the latter position now, and it's not pretty. And then this person, SAH48S, says, so he has become bold, showing his true colors. When someone tells you who they are, believe them. CL Herrick says, there are problems and there are problems. We all have uniquenesses, which makes us interesting, but your husband, from what you described, sounds like a mess, an unhealthy mess, a mess who is not very compatible with you. Questions galore says, someone having a hard time quitting smoking is not a good reason to divorce. Stop giving people awful advice. Misery must want company. But is staying with somebody who is a liar, smoker, and an alcoholic, does that sound wonderful? That doesn't sound wonderful to me. And then the person at the bottom says, it's about the lying for a decade, not the fact that he's having a hard time quitting. Now he smokes right in front of her boldly. He'll never change. He doesn't respect nor care about her at all. Now, we know this. She knows this. What is she going to do about it? I don't know. But for the people watching this, if somebody doesn't respect you at all, if they've lied to you, if they don't give a damn about their own body, why would you stay with them? Imagine what's going to happen in 10 years when he becomes completely broken down from the inside out because he's damaging his organs from alcohol abuse and smoking and lack of exercise. This just sounds like a terrible situation waiting to happen. Anyways, join the conversation. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to like, comment. This post is about medical misogyny and the lengths that some women have to do to go through to get doctors to pay attention to their needs. So this was posted in the 2X chromosomes subreddit. She says, I have my husband message my doctors now. She says, I remember a study done some decades ago regarding women trying to buy cars. Typically, they were overcharged, even if attempting to negotiate car prices, whereas men walked out of dealerships with cheaper car prices. This study came out when I was a kid, and I can always remember my mom saying she'd just bring my dad along when it was time for a new car. She also had my older sister bring dad too. Anyway, I feel like I have to do the same thing now with my doctors, and I fired and hired a lot of them. I'm tired of getting new doctors only to be dismissed. I started asking my husband to send doctors portal messages on my behalf. He can do this from his own portal with his user photo on the message and everything. Night and day difference. Doesn't matter if the doc is a man or a woman either. They are far more cordial and take my concerns very seriously. He doesn't get those abrupt replies that are one sentence, half a sentence, or sometimes one or two words with zero punctuation. Nope, he gets a hello, Mr., our last name, plus a well thought out message and even have a good day. And the responses are typically not dismissive. I used to think I got the abrupt dismissive stuff because these doctors were so busy. Yeah, no. Hell, usually I didn't get replies from doctors. They'd make other staff reply, and that typically resulted in whatever information was shared between me and the doctor to be so skewed, like a game of telephone. I also bring my husband to doctor appointments. Yeah, huge difference. I tell him to go in, to jump in and do most of the talking too. I'm I'm sorry, I tell him before we go in to jump in and do most of the talking to. And I tell him my concerns. He commits them to memory. My God, it's a whole scheme we got going on, huh? On that note, I've heard of trans men being completely blown away by the night and day difference between going to the doctor after transitioning versus before. Men should just rent themselves out to go with you to doctor's appointments because I swear to effing God, we're treated like at the doctor. I'm sick of it. Medical misogyny is so insidious. The sexism that is baked into the cake of America is a mess. Women are not human enough for doctors, even women doctors, to hear us complain about something, to hear us tell about our issues or our pain. Doctors can't hear us. Maybe it's the frequency of our voices, maybe it's the higher pitch or whatever, but we are not listened to. And this is harming women. The fact that she has to go through all of this, she has to like prep her husband, tell her issues. That is a mess that women should not have to go through. Nefarious Mango says, my husband started coming to appointments with me recently, mostly because I was worried I'd miss something. Language barrier. It's disheartening how much more seriously I'm taken when he's there. We still laugh about the time an ER doctor told me a specialist I just left didn't exist. I handed him the referral slip, pulled his website up on my phone. Nope, I made him up. Then my husband said, are you sure? Because we definitely just saw him. And the doctor was like, oh, him. Right. Yes, I know him. Edit. It's probably worth adding that he's not a native speaker either. So it's not like he's just communicating with the doctors better than I am. I wanted a second set of ears or someone to take notes for me for the times the doctor goes off on a hard to follow tangent. Relationship may be over says, absolutely. It's alarming that our voices often need a man's validation to be taken seriously. Caribou says, after my partner was complaining to me that her doctors were not listening to her, I started going to appointments. The first time I was confused because everything seemed to be going how I thought a doctor appointment would go, right? Nothing at all like she described. She broke down in tears on the ride home. Apparently, me just sitting in the room, not even doing or saying anything, was enough to completely shift the experience to normalcy. Nefarious Mango responds with, the first time my husband came, he was like, oh my God, that was surreal. You had to push so hard and you still got sent home with nothing useful. And I laughed and laughed because, yes, I did have to keep pushing. But after my husband backed me up, they did some testing and got me a next day appointment with the specialist. That never happened to me before. Ikemi says, oh man, this makes me want to cry. Agnes the atheist says, I've said this to the doctor's face. I knew I was moving and I was done having to deal with this guy. I told him exactly what I thought, that I was stuck with him for years because of my insurance coverage and being in such a rural area. I wasn't taken seriously, and mentioning anything about my husband thinks or suggests is what got any traction. Needless to say, he was super pissed at my honesty. Exactly. You and I cannot imagine what's going to happen as more and more progressive type of doctors move away from these forced birther states. Imagine what's going to happen and what kind of doctors will be left and how stretched then they will be, since many doctors are moving away. Fountain Pop Junkie says, I call it transitioning into a peen. I work in maintenance. Sometimes I'll tell someone what I believe is wrong with the equipment, and they'll flat out say I'm wrong or just ignore me. Then I'll ask my male counterpart. He'll just say the exact thing, but with the peen, so they'll listen. I've been told I was wrong when I was just reading the fault code off the screen and reading what the manual said. They waited 4 hours for the day shift guy to come in, read the fault code off the screen, and then read what the manual says. But he translated it into peen, so this time they understood it. Oh, it's so maddening. UG47 says, is wild how how a simple presence can shift the entire dynamic. We shouldn't have to rely on men for basic respect in healthcare or anything, because women can talk for ourselves because we're humans. All right, y'all. Join the conversation. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.
I love your hair, Brenda.
I love your hair, Brenda.
Yeah.
Get ready with us to go vote.
Step 1, make sure your bob shelley is perfect.
Because you got to look good at the polls.
Step 2, rock that eyeliner. Do I have to make a sound?
Step 3, wear your power suit and your pins.
This one's for Harris, and this one's for Walls.
And this one's for Grease, because I just love that musical. Specifically. And finally, step 4 and 5.
Get registered and go vote.
Because this election season, your most important accessory ain't no suit pins or bob shullets. Why's my hat backwards?
See that, honey? That means my voice was heard.
You can ask for extra stickers, but make sure you only vote once.
Yeah, don't be weird. I'm Brenda Pollard, and I approve this message.